And you're the Pied Piper with the reins. Oh, why come and stay with you?
I should have had about 10 wings, Teresa.
So you're going on Friday? He's going on Friday? Oh, to half 9 people said it was too late, half 6 to half 7 now they're saying it's too early, so I don't really know the right time, but you've got to go with what time they'll give you a meeting in here, you know. So I've did it every month since last year, but we're no any political party at all. In fact, if you read the leaflet, there's all different things. I'm part of Scottish Sovereigns as well, and this here I started as the bedroom tax in the first place. That's why I came here, because of the bedroom tax and all the cuts and everything, and that was why I came here in the first place. But where we are now, some people think the bedroom tax is gone. It's not gone. It's coming back. It'll be back in April. You know, they people all voted for it, right? They're not going to then just make it disappear. I've got an article tonight that what they're going to do is they're going to put certain people exempt from it. There it's there. MPs vote yes to bedroom tax carers exemption. So that in itself tells you if they're going to give the carers an exemption, there ain't no way that the bedroom tax is gone. That heading's enough. It's
only people that's actually getting carers allowance. So you can be a carer and not getting carers allowance. So you'll not get it then.
Yeah, so there you go. So that head in itself. Sorry. Can I finish and then you can all talk if you don't mind, because then I'm going to pass you on to other people, and then everybody will get an opportunity to say their bit. Is that all right? Because that's what they're saying. So I originally came here for the bedroom tax to help the people with the bedroom tax who were getting evicted. I'm not 100% opposed to the bedroom tax, because I don't think it's right that one person stays in a 5-bedroom mansion or an 8-bedroom mansion, because that's what brought the bedroom tax in the first place. But I don't think it's right for people who have paid their rent maybe for 30 or 40 years, or they've lived in a house for 30 or 40 years and now they're getting tossed out it. Now, if I work all my days and I get to the age I am now, and then I can't work for whatever reason, and I can't pay my rent, I shouldn't have to leave my house just because I've paid it for 40 years, I've bought it myself umpteen times, so the council's well had their money. So these policies are wrong, and we the people need to do something about it. What I didn't put anything on the leaflet because somebody asked me what kind of meeting is it. Well, it's just a people's meeting, and that's what I think we need. We need the people to be standing up to the corrupt governments in the first place, and without the people, you're not going to get anywhere. It doesn't matter, you know, on the leaflet I said, does it really matter if it was a yes or a no? People are falling out with folk because they voted no, and others are falling out with folk because they voted yes. It doesn't really matter whether you voted yes or no. Everybody just wear different coloured jackets. But he's the boss of them all. It doesn't matter. They still all do what they're told to do, and it's the people. I've had meetings here. Joanne Lamont was here in December with Alistair Watson, and what Joanne Lamont said, and Alistair Watson was a lot of people, but it was, of course, it wasn't they came from Penilee. Hardly any of them. Was about 10 people from Penilee, and we put out about 2.5 leaflets. And what Alistair Watson said was, don't worry about it, there's no many people for the local area. And that was actually sad as it is, it was actually true. Because they weren't interested in people know with the bedroom tax, because they're out working, so they pay it, and they weren't interested in people being affected. But they same people could be affected tomorrow. Because you might not work today. If you're in a 3-bedroom house and you can't work tomorrow, you'll need to pay for the other 2 rooms, and you've paid the house maybe for 20, 30 years. So the policy is wrong the way it's written. I'm not saying I disagree with it. It's not right that one person stays in a 5-bedroom house and youngsters with kids can't get houses. So people do need to move about. When David Cameron brought out his statement and he said, no longer will people have a house for life, I didn't know what he was talking about, social housing. How would you know have a house for life? But that's what he meant, because you're going to have to pay for it. It's impossible. For anybody who's never been on benefits, trust me, it's impossible. I told Ruth Davison, your £71.40 doesn't cut the biscuit bill. And when I got their biscuit bill, theirs was thousands in Holyrood. What have we got in Holyrood? What did they spend? £12.5 million was my really flip that I had it on. £12.5 million or something they spent just in expenses there, it's there. MSPs at Holyrood spent £12.5 million in expenses, whilst leaving the vulnerable to starve or dependent food banks. That's what I said. You know what I mean? So they're the ones that are causing the corruption. They're the ones that are causing the country to have no money. They're the ones that are causing the food banks. Food banks the 21st century in Scotland. Get real. They're proud that they've opened another food bank. I refuse to give to a food bank except this man's. I will not give to any food bank, because as soon as I give a tin of beans to a food bank, I'm encouraging the government to sanction people and leave them with no food. Not leave them with no money to feed themselves, and that's got to be wrong. You know, when I was a kid, my dad got £50 fine for failing to maintain himself. He was deemed to be a nuisance and a drain on society, because he didn't claim benefits and he wasn't working, and he got a £50 fine. They took him to Glasgow Sheriff Court and fined him £50, and now they're doing it themselves. So there must be legislation there. Sean might be able to find somebody that knows it, but there must be legislation there that says that you cannot go and beg off your friends and family. You shouldn't have to beg in this country for money. There's tons of money. The only reason there's no money is because all these bandpots are stealing it all. That's the only reason there's no money, because they're taking it. The people don't have a say. But whose fault is it? How many people's here tonight? And we put it all over Facebook for days. We've put over 400 or 500 leaflets out just in Penilee. So what they're saying is right, and until the people, the sad thing is, until the people are affected, they don't come out the door until it affects them. Where did the society go that we once lived in, whereby if that Wayne was starving, you did give it to us? Where is it now? It's gone. We've got MPs, MSPs, councillors in this country who've actually tried. They don't even let me advertise in this community centre that I'm having a meeting. They won't let me do that because I'm no part of a political party. That's wrong. I'm paying for a room in here the same as anybody else, but I was told to keep my mouth shut because they might take the room off me altogether. What kind of corruption is that? So you've no got freedom of speech. You're only allowed to say what they will allow you to say. Well, that's no use to anybody, certainly no use to any of the people. The message of what they're doing isn't getting to the people because they're not allowing it to be printed. The message is getting to the people is through people like us who are going out there talking to the people and telling them. I spoke to somebody the other day and she went, oh, I didn't know that. And I said, well, I don't know why, because I've been banging on about it for a year. And what I tried to do, because I'm part of Scottish Sovereigns, what I tried to do was keep them all separate. I tried to keep the sovereign side separate for this bit, but what I'm finding is all the time they're interlinking all the time, so it's impossible to keep them separate because they come from a different place, and what they're saying is, well, if it's not, it's your laws, no mine, so they're coming from a different area. But what I'm trying to do is show the people, open your eyes, see what's happening. You know, we've got scandals. MPs call for inquiry into £1 million bonus paid to a Motability firm. I think David Cameron claims to only collect £250,000 a year for his wages. Why the hell is he paying somebody £1 million? But that's privatisation for you, isn't it? The Motability. Who's paying for it? Us, the taxpayers. That's who's paying for it. The taxpayers is paying for it. And he's getting £1 million. I'm not going to talk about Sean Atos because I'll leave that to Sean, and I'm not going to talk about the food banks because I'll leave that to Darren. All I wanted to do was introduce it and just tell you the things that... This is another scandal. What a big rip-off. 5p for a plastic bag as of today, right? You've no idea how many small companies, many small shops have said to them, you don't need to pay 5p for a plastic bag. Oh yes I do. If I don't pay it, I'm going to get a fine. Well, I'm afraid to tell you, the legislation clearly states that if you're a small shop with less than 10 employees, you don't need to charge for a plastic bag. And it also says, if you're buying groceries like fruit that's no packaged, you're entitled to a bag for free. But guess what they're all doing? They're all charging 5p a pot. For every plastic bag you buy, you have to pay 5 pence. Well, that's going to make the shopkeepers a lot of money, but no, that might work for a year or two, because I guarantee you in 2 years' time the government are going to make you put it to a charity, because what they're saying is they're trying to encourage you to put it to a charity. Well, the charities all belong to me, thanks very much, so just keep bringing the 5 pences. And 5 pence might not sound a lot of money when you're just taking one plastic bag, but 5p, when you're going to the shops to buy your messages, 5 pence will soon mount up. And it'll be billions of pounds they'll be raking in. They're already raking in billions of pounds with parking fines that are illegal. They shouldn't be giving them, but they give them. But the problem we've got is there's not enough people standing up. There's more people now than there was in 2009, but there's still nowhere near enough people to stand up and say, no, we're not having this anymore. And until the people themselves stand up and say, we've had enough and we're not taking it, you know, they just keep pushing and pushing and pushing, you know, and we're up here now. We're almost going through the window and through the wall. When do you stop them? When do you stop them? You have to stop buying their crap. You have to stop going to the machines. Stop feeding the machines. Stop buying the stuff. If you don't need it, don't buy it. If it's no broke, don't fix it. That'll stop their corporate machine, because everything they do is all for them, for their power hungry, greed for money. What does one person need £1 million in a bank account for? If you're unemployed tomorrow, doesn't matter how much you paid in tax. Doesn't matter. You'll still get £71.40, it might be £73.40, you don't spend it on the one shop. Because I can guarantee you, off that £71.40, you've got to pay 20% of your council tax, you've still got to pay all sorts of bills. You must pay a television licence, but Sean will tell you you don't. He's got a video for it, but that's what they tell you. By law, you must pay that, and if you don't pay it, I'm taking you to court to get it paid. And then if you don't pay the fine that I impose on you, I'll jail you. No, that's not right. Why should we have to pay a TV licence when all the scandals, and I don't want to get into the scandals that came through the BBC, but everybody knows it's been plastered all over the place, and I'm not paying a TV licence. And I don't think anybody should be paying, and I think they should be all called to account, because they let all that paedophilia go on in front of their eyes, and they did damn all about it. So they're the ones responsible, no us, and all they talk about is the scroungers on the dole. Well, I'm afraid the scroungers aren't the ones on the dole. The scroungers are the MSPs and the MPs who are raking in billions of pounds a year. Every time they turn up, they get paid. Every pound, every time. Our Waynes couldn't get a room. Bedroom tax, for everybody that doesn't know me, bedroom tax doesn't affect me. Never has affected me, right? But it did affect a lot of people I knew, and a lot of people I didn't know. But it didn't affect me. But Lord Froude, he needed an 8-bedroom house. And the MPs claimed £64,000 because they needed a bedroom for their kids to go to the London home that we're paying for. They needed somewhere to sleep. So how do their Waynes need somewhere to sleep once a month or once a year or whatever length of time they took them? But our Waynes didn't need a room every night of the week. This is the kind of things that we have to try and address and how we're going to do it. Vote SNP, vote Labour, vote Tories, vote Liberal Dems. Well, Labour, Tories and Lib Dems, you seen them all standing together, side by side, the Three Musketeers. How could you possibly vote them? But I've got an article here, and this was Joanne Lamont. This is after she stood side by side with the Tories. So they're now the red Tories, I call them. So we've got the blue Tories, the yellow Tories and the red Tories. And this is what she said, or what they said. Constituencies run by leading Labour lights, including Miss Lamont herself, MPs Margaret Curran, Tom Harris, Willie Brain, Frank Roy, Ian Davidson, Anis Sarwar, Greg McClyman and Tom Clark, as well as MSPs Jackie Bailey, Paul Martin, Patricia Ferguson and Michael McMahon were among those voting yes. What the hell was she doing standing with the no voters for then, if they all voted? So as far as I'm concerned, they can call me a liar, I don't know, but they stood with the no voters. So if they stand with the no voters, they voted no. You can't stand and say, I'm voting no. Oh, here, I did vote yes, just keep voting me in. There is much use to all us people, normal working class people, as a chocolate watch. Because they're rubbish at their job, they're not doing what they're paid for, and they've forgot their job. Their job is to protect the public, to look after us, the people. They work for us. We don't work for them. They work for us. They've just forgot it. And it's down to us, the people, to bring that back and make them work for the people again, instead of multinational companies and big fat checkbooks, because that's all they're working for. They don't run the country. For them down here who thinks the MPs are the ones that say what goes, that's rubbish. It's not been like that since I went to college in 1992, and I did a political class, and back then in 1992 in the college, that was what they said. It was the multinationals that ran the country, and it's 10 times worse now than it was back in 1992. So we need to get back the power for the people. Now the only way, and I can see, to get the power back for the people is for the people to come united in all areas and no vote any of the political parties. Understand what people are saying, we need to vote SNP to get them out. Well, do we really need to vote SNP? We probably do, I don't know. But do we just want to vote SNP and give them carte blanche to do what Labour's done? Just to do what the Tories have done? If you vote SNP, they're just the same bunch. They work for the same boss. They're owned and controlled by the bankers. They've bailed the banks out by billions of pounds, and they're leaving vulnerable people in the streets to starve on a daily basis for peanuts of 70 quid a week, sometimes 35. But it's alright, if you're under 35, you still stay with your mammy. Don't leave the house. You're not allowed any benefits if you're under 35. You can't get a housing benefit. So they keep pushing up the barriers all the time. What the hell does a 35-year-old man or woman want to stay with their mother for? There's not enough jobs out there. If everybody was to go out tomorrow saying, right, okay, knock on your door, give me a job, there isn't a job there, murder them all. What are they going to do? They're creating jobs, they're fictitiously telling you there's jobs there. I mean, you go to get them, they're nowhere in sight. I don't know where all these, because I know thousands of people that are unemployed that are looking for jobs but can't get them. And they can't get a start, nobody will take them on. But all the employers, what they want is they want somebody that's going to pay them. You know, I'll take you on, right, you're going to give me money, who's going to give me the fee for employing this person? And that's what they done when I was 18. And they took youngsters in under the YTS, and they paid them under YTS, but when that funding stopped, they had no job. So for us, the people, I'm going to pass it over because I didn't want to spend too much time talking. I just want to try and drum up, get the people more involved in what they are just now, and definitely in the local areas. I don't know what's wrong with Penilee. They must all be happy, must be loaded because they've hardly anybody here. Even the other day I spoke to people in Penilee whereby they're like, oh, the GHA is doing this and this one's doing that, but they're not here tonight, so you can't help people who don't want to help themselves, you know. So this guy here, this is Darren, and he's been doing a food bank in George Square for the last week.
Can I say something first though about Penilee? Because obviously with Penilee, your signs have been torn down. You know, the one at the bus stop is torn down, so people can't read something that's not physically there if it's already torn down. I mean, I'm after days, so I seen on Facebook that this was on the night, but apart from that, I would never have known. So,
Right, but
like, it's not communicated well through Penilee, I don't think.
Veronica, how many times have we leafleted this whole area?
I've not even seen a notice.
I only put out 400. There's 2,500 houses in Penilee, right? And this time I put out 400, and I put them on the poles up and down where they were going to, where the people would be, the traffic would be passing. We've stood at that shop, but the problem is this centre here won't let me advertise. I see they didn't pull day 2 down today, but normally day 2 are not there by the time I come. So what I've got to do is I've got to come on a Saturday. I've got to wait till this place shuts on a Saturday, so that they're not until the Monday, so that people passing the community centre will see that. That's not right. I should be able to advertise in this community centre from one month to the next that there's going to be a meeting.
But maybe Penilee isn't the place to put the signs up. It could be Paisley Road, Mint.
Oh, we did that. They were all there as well. We went down, right down to Morrison's. No Morrison's. Is Morrison's in at the big shop? Right down, but the big stores will not take the leaflets. The chip shop took the leaflet. The Argosy bar took the leaflet. The news agents at the corner beside Paddy Power, he took the leaflet. There was Michael's took the leaflet, and there was another shop on the side street that took the leaflet. But that was all. So, but any suggestions at all for getting the people in Penilee? We're not just going to do it in Penilee anyway. We're going to go into different areas because I think that's what's needed. It's not just to be focused on Penilee. It's got to be all of the areas. There's people everywhere. You know what I mean? So that's what we're going to try and do. So I'm going to. Sorry?
Sorry.
So, hello. Oh, there, this is Jim Tornan, isn't it?
Indeed.
Yep. Well, you might as well come up, so I'm glad you came. Jim came to one of the meetings a way back, and it was after, unfortunately, Jim, it was after that. We were just talking there about why they won't let me advertise the meetings and all that. So this lady's from Penilee, and she's saying that she doesn't really know about it. She only heard it today because she was off her work. Now, when we had the meeting away back in November, December, it was after that this community centre stopped me from advertising the meetings. So all I can do is keep posting them through people's doors and put them on the polls. Now these two ladies only heard about it today. This lady heard about it at 4 o'clock and this lady heard about it on Facebook. But I should be able to, if I'm high in a room in this, whether I'm a political party or no, shouldn't be either here nor there, I should be able to advertise this, but they won't let me because they're saying it's against the council. Now, if I'm trying to promote what we're all about, which is for the people, is what I've told you. You asked me way back then about the Glasgow City Council, and they took me to court for a debt I didn't owe. It was £4,000. You said you'd be interested to know how much the bill cost. Well, my own fees have already been assessed at £3,500. I didn't owe the £4,000, so Glasgow City Council wasted that money taking me to court for £4,000. They've got to pay me £3,500 and whatever amount it cost the lawyers. So that's the kind of thing that you're dealing with. I'm not in the council, so I don't know how to deal with that. All I do is deal with my own stuff, and I'm here for the people, and I don't want to be arguing or fighting with any, but as far as I'm concerned, the political parties have not been here for months. This is now October, going into November. I've been here since last year, and other than 3 times, nobody's turned up to the meetings. So I'll leave that one with you. But I'm going to pass it on to Darren for Darren to talk about what he's doing in George Square for the food banks. We shouldn't need food banks, I'm going to say. In the 21st century, we've got a food bank and people are starving. It's abysmal.
Thank you. For my name's Darren Carnegie, I run the organisation Glasgow Media. I'm going to try and be sharp, short and to the point, because I'm exhausted just now. I'm currently camping out in George Square in front of the City Chambers building, having 1 meal a day to try and raise awareness and highlight the plight and poverty in Glasgow. For some of you might not know, most of you probably will know, in communities and housing schemes, the plight and poverty in Glasgow just now is absolutely disgusting. Figures came out the other day there that there's 1 in 3 children in Glasgow living in poverty. In some areas 1 in 2. I particularly don't have to go on those figures because I run a food bank. I don't like to call it a food bank. I prefer to call it a food share because I believe banks are part of the problem which cause these things in the first place. But the fact is, I actually have to have a food bank in 2014. And the fact that I'm actually having to camp in front of George Square to try and raise awareness at the plight and poverty, I think is absolutely madness for Glasgow 2014. The fact that there's actually the need for food banks in Glasgow 2014 is disgusting. I mean, this isn't East Africa where the poverty there is man-made, never mind they have droughts. This is Scotland, a land of plenty. This is Glasgow, a place of plenty. One of the most richest countries in the world, yet it's so unequal. I mean, growing up as a young guy, there's always been people who are worse off than other people. That's just always been the way it is. But things are getting worse instead of progressing. The fact that people are having to visit food banks for food, people have actually not got anything to eat, and that's just food poverty. There's fuel poverty as well. I'll give you a wee story about last Christmas. I was out doing food drops on Christmas Day. I went to a family in East End of Glasgow. It was a guy and he had 5 young children aged between 5 and 12. The wife had died, the man took depression, and the man had lost his job because of that depression and wasn't getting any support from the government because he deemed it as his own fault for losing his job from depression. So the man's wife had died. I'm taking him in food on Christmas Day when other children are getting presents. And I've got a young kid at the age of 5 cuddling me with the legs, grabbing me with the legs and cuddling me, shouting hot dogs because I was giving him tins of hot dogs on Christmas Day. Now that for me isn't right. My brain won't comprehend with that. And that's just no guys because depressed and out of work. All different people visit food banks for all different reasons. People who are unemployed, people get depressed. The drug and alcohol abuse in Glasgow is absolutely huge. But not just that, people who are working are visiting food banks. Now, I don't agree with people visiting food banks I don't agree with that sort of poverty for people who aren't working. Never mind people who are working. People working 40 hours a week and still having to go to somebody else to get food to eat. This term, the working poor, that shouldn't even be a term. It doesn't make sense to me. The working poor. If you're working 40 hours a week, sweeping the roads or doing whatever you're doing, you shouldn't have to decide between heating and eating. It shouldn't be a choice for you and your family. Well, what will we do tonight? Will we stick the heating on because it's a very cold night, or will we have dinner? That shouldn't be a choice. What happened to the days when guys work 40 hours a week? I mean, it's always been bad, but working 40 hours a week and you went for a pint on the Friday night with your work colleagues. Guys can't even afford to go for a pint anymore. People can't even afford to get themselves a fish supper. People who are working a week, sweeping the streets. But that's partly to blame because this celebrity culture has been brought in now. And it's even more difficult for these people when they get children. They're having to keep up with the Joneses. They're living this a culture where it's No Way is Essex and Made in Chelsea and X Factors, and these people are having to provide for their families. There's no social housing. People can't get a house, so they have to go and get a mortgage. They can't afford a mortgage, so they pay through the teeth to a private landlord. The rising cost in fuel poverty. People are paying through the teeth to somebody sitting in a castle for something that comes out the ground that belongs to the people anyway. And then they've got the rising cost for actual food itself. And then of course this status about celebrity cultures and keeping up with the Joneses. People have to dress appropriately. People are pressurising their children wearing certain clothes and certain labels, and else their kids then go to school and then they get bullied, for example. I mean, it's completely absurd. And the fact is that food banks are becoming normalised. These governments are doing heavy cuts and savage attacks on the most vulnerable people in society, and it's been allowed because then you've got, I run a food bank personally, as I said, I like to call it a food bank, I call it a food share. But for me to go up every single day and just continue to run my food bank as if it's normality, for me I find absurd. At the same time, I will continuously feed these people and give them assistance in any way I can, but I find it's my duty morally to also campaign and try and combat the need for it in the first place, because it would be crazy for me just to go up the day every day and just keep doing it as if it's normal, because that's what they want you to believe, these people at the top, these people in Westminster, and particularly Tory governments. They want you to accept it as a normality for food banks nowadays. They turn up and cut the ribbon, open up a food bank as if it's a sports centre for the youth to go and play football. But it's actually a food bank they're opening up. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. It's absolutely crazy. And as we were saying, government's trying to completely normalise it all the time and putting stigma onto people who are visiting food banks. People come to me and they feel embarrassed, they feel ashamed about being in poverty. Like I said, it's not a specific person that's in poverty or even a specific group of people. It's a wide range of people. People shouldn't feel embarrassed about coming to a food bank. The stigma has to be completely taken away from people who visit food banks and shifted onto those who create it. The people who create it are the ones at the top. They're the people who create food banks. They're the people who create this stigma. And for me, there's something no right. There has to be a complete change. Not just a change, a radical change. Because I can't continue to run my food bank. Because I will continue to do it. I don't want to do it. No, it's because I shouldn't have to do it. I shouldn't have to have food banks in 2014. People should be able to, especially for people who are working. For me, that is madness that families are working all week. I mean, I've got nurses come to me. People who are working for the NHS as nurses, they've got kids, their man's left them. You never know the situation that people are going to get into for to end up visiting. It could end up you. You never know when it's going to be you. And for me, there has to be complete radical change to help these people. Which brings me on to the referendum. For me, the first and biggest step for getting more equality and for the end that would have been a yes vote. For me, a yes vote was the biggest and first step. I mean, it's not going to be the land of milk honey straight away. You'd be naive to think that. But for me, a yes vote was the first and biggest step into trying to create a more fair and equal society within Scotland, and not just Scotland, but for the rest of the UK and the rest of the world. I like to say, but I wouldn't be too disheartened about the fact that we got a no vote, and for a reason being, a lot of people called it Black Friday the day after, when we had all the half-wits out doing their Nazi salutes, whatever. I don't believe that is Black Friday. I believe that's a day of change. I like to call it Red Friday. It's a day when people stood up and really get interested. People not just want a yes vote for the sake of it. People want a yes vote for social justice, for social change. So when it does come now, it shouldn't be known. Those days will not be known as Black Friday. It will be known as Red Friday. Red for change, red for revolution. Hopefully a peaceful revolution, because people are ready to stand up. And as for the referendum, if people honestly thought, were naive enough to think that they were just going to let us vote away our freedom, it is completely naive. When you've got eating boys, you've got bankers, you've got corporate companies and big business, and using their friends at the media to spit out their Project Fear, that is not democracy. That is control and manipulation, if anything. For me, that's what it is, and it's not a fair crack at the whip. Now, I mean, we could talk about 2016, we can then get a majority MSPs for in Parliament for independence, and then we can declare independence then and there. We can just declare it. But then people say that isn't fair, because they won't let the people decide through a referendum. But I bring it back to, I don't know if I particularly want that, because I would love the people to decide for themselves, but I want a fair crack at with it. I don't believe a referendum is fair either, for the reasons I just said. I don't believe when you've got all these people sitting on the table like Camelot, deciding what they're going to do, then going out and using every dirty tactic under the book to fear people. I do not believe that is democracy. I really don't believe it's democracy. Now, for all the problems I said about food banks, I really do believe, like I said, independence was the way forward to getting away from it. I really do believe it's the biggest step in the right direction to get away from it towards a radical change in society. I believe Westminster have got the biggest part to play for the injustices. I mean, with the constant welfare cuts, money for big business, money for weapons of mass destruction, there's no money for communities, and then with their friends in the media and are creating this celebrity culture where everybody idolises to be like made in Chelsea stars and X Factor. This is no reality. We children nowadays, because they sang once at a school disco or whatever, and their mums say, oh, you're going to be a singer, and would you want to be, oh, I want to be a singer, I want to be a singer. This is nonsense. There has to be a reality check where people actually want to be doctors, people want to be teachers, people want to be... That's the real heroes. Heroes are people who get up every day and work hard and come home and provide for their families. These are the heroes of society. No, these celebrities up there who want to say they're tuppence worth every so often. We look at them as if they're all high and mighty gods. This has to change. But for me, the change we need would have been through a yes vote, and we need to continue to get that. I then believe that we need a complete redistribution of wealth, and this, we need to change the economic system, the way it works, the trickle-down economic system, where everything's at the top and it falls down, you're left with the crumbs at the bottom. I don't think it worked, and it definitely isn't fair. I believe that we have to campaign for independence continuously, have to keep the momentum going, and I believe this on a smaller scale, for things to stop, we have to campaign for a living wage for a start. I believe a minimum wage, it's in the title, minimum wage, it's not enough. The fact that people are living and working their asses off all week and still can't afford anything, can't afford the bare essentials to eat, for me is sickening, it's appalling, it's absurd. I think we have to work towards a living wage. I believe with a yes vote, it's the only way I guaranteed no more Tory governments, no more austerity cuts. Sean will be able to tell you more about austerity cuts. I see it day in, day out. My dad, because I'm camping out just now, my dad and Lord were in the food bank side. 10 people have visited at my food bank today for help because of sanctions from the government. I mean, they're putting hoops, they're putting things in place that are impossible to jump through. It's complete madness, and I believe it's became like a target-driven business. I work as a salesman, and I start the morning meeting. We meet up to see a target for the week, and how you want to progress to get that target. I believe towards sanctions, it's became like a target-driven business. But at the start of the week, they say you have to get so many sanctions, and these people in the Department of Work and Pensions are getting, they're in a vice just now, and it's getting squeezed because they feel that they're going to be out in a job and they're going to end up in the same predicament. So it's just madness. I believe we need to have a higher taxation of the rich instead of tax breaks for the rich, and we need to change where governments are actually allowed to show their friends and corporate companies actually where to hide their money, so they don't have to pay their proper tax, and then when they do get caught, they get a wee slap in the wrist. Whereas we Jeannie for Penilee is on a dole, barely surviving. She works 4 hours a week and being on the side cleaning, and she gets caught and gets 6 months in jail and gets sanctioned for a year. I mean, that doesn't make sense to me. It's completely crazy and it's absurd. I believe that we need to have money for kids and education and not for bombs and occupation. Too much money has been spent on things like nuclear weapons and nuclear deterrent from who, and sending people to the other end of the world to fight people who are no threat to us. The fact, I mean, you could believe, for instance, NATO have enough nuclear weapons to blow the world up 7 times over. You know, I don't know if they can see the woods through the trees, but once it's blew up once, the place is blew up. So even if you do agree with NATO, use the other 6 times money for social issues to make social justice in society. I mean, that's just logic for me. It doesn't make sense. It's madness. I think we need to invest in social housing. There's no social housing for MD. The chances, I will never get a house out of the council. I will, like you're saying, up to 35, there's no chance of me. I can't, if I do get the jobs you get, you're working low paid, you can't afford rents, you can't afford mortgages. I think we need to invest in jobs, we need to invest in people. Where do we go from here on in? I think we need to keep the momentum going, keep doing grassroots levels like this. I truly believe that the change can happen for grassroots levels. For me, camping in George Square, I'm not doing it in vain. I'm not doing these things in vain. If I'm not enjoying it, camping in George Square, I'm bloody well exhausted, I'm smelling, and if I shower, I could go a pint, I'm not enjoying it. For a friend that knows me, we need, but people are talking now. we've created something here that's special, even though it's no, like I said, I don't think it's Black Friday. I call it Red Friday, Red for Change. I believe it is time for change. I believe we've got something going here. This 45 movement thing, I think we have to really, there's no point in us continuously talking about the 45 movement and preaching to the converted. We have to move on now, because at the end of the day, if we have another referendum, we need 50.00.1% movement. Let's call it that. Let's get talking to people who voted no. Let's ask them how they feel about the vow, how they were lied to. Let's actually get into them and find out their circumstances. I was in a taxi the other night there. I was in a taxi last week, and I spoke to a taxi driver. I was asking about life, and he was telling about how he's struggling at the moment, and he's working all week, he's hardly getting any wages. And I asked him how he voted, and he said he voted no, and I couldn't get it. And I spoke to him on the journey home, and I told him about how he's working all week. For example, he's working for private taxi companies who's probably going to be some gangster anyway that the government's allow, because they don't seem to want to do anything about them. For instance, when I set my tent up in George Square the other day, campaigning to do a good thing, the police were there within 10 minutes, asked me what I'm doing. But then on Saturday night when I'm sitting in George Square, observing hundreds of people fighting, they've never to be seen. Do you know what I mean? The police are just they're just a private organisation paid to protect the corporate elite as far as I'm concerned. But back to what I was saying, we need to get talking to people who are no voters, ask them how they feel about how they were lied to, try to convince them of where they went wrong and show them into their lives personally. The taxi driver, after I spoke to him, he never openly said that he was going to change his mind, but I believe if they came round again he would change his mind after me speaking to him. Like I says, we've got something going here, we've got a momentum going. It's like a bus, people keep coming on it, nobody's getting off. It's up to us to allow people to keep getting on it, and don't give the people who voted no stick. Don't slag them. Actually embrace them and come and join you. Speak to them about the media and how they were actually fooled. You've got to remember a lot of these people were fooled into voting no. It wasn't their fault. All people were scared. It was a complete project fear. So it's up to us to keep talking to them, keep the momentum going, and hopefully we need to campaign for social justice at the end of the day, because that's what we need. I do believe that independence is the biggest step towards social justice, but we need to remember we don't just want independence for the sake of it. Like you're saying about political parties, we can't just allow them to then have a free rein and do what they want. We don't just need yes for the sake of it, we need yes, because then it opens the door for complete shift and complete radical change in the way things are. And I believe that'll be good for not just for Scotland, but for the wider world. I believe once we get radical change in Scotland with a fairer system, more equality, I believe the workers of England will look up and say, oh, hold on a minute, what's going on up there? I believe that'll then allow them to rise up, and they'll get their equality, and the same goes for Wales, Ireland, and throughout the world, hopefully. But I think that's what we need to continue to do from here on in. Thank you for your time, and keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks very much, Dan, for that. So everybody, we've already said, keep up momentum. But Dan, you're going to be there still tomorrow, aren't you?
I'll be there till Wednesday morning.
So if anybody feels like going up to George Square and putting a parcel of food in, then...
Oh, by the way, sorry, can I just say, I do a collection every Saturday afternoon in George Square. Donations are welcome, have a big or small. I understand a lot of people are in poverty themselves, so don't feel as if you have to... either of you just want to come up and say, give me a high five and say, well, or even stand ways and talk ways. That's important as well, because I understand a lot of people are in poverty and it's non-perishables. And obviously you can if you want to see anything else, you can get us on the Glasgow's Needy page, which is facebook.com/Glasgow's Needy, and you can see where we're going from here. Because as I said, me personally, my dad, Glasgow's Needy, we're not going away. I'm not going to just sit back and go away quietly in the night and just, oh, that's it, it nearly happened. I'm going to continue to campaign for social justice. I'm not camping down this square to laugh. No, it's no fun. It's horrible. I don't like camping. I'm a bit like, do you know what I mean? I'm hungry. But people are talking. Hundreds, thousands of people have come out to see me over the past few days. People are talking. We need to continue to talk, but not just to yes, to no voters. And again, thank you guys. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce Sean. He's going to tell people about maybe whatever he's going to say. Probably the Atos and things like that. Right? Thanks, Sean.
Just want to talk about the future and what we need to do. Now, some of you might not be aware of it. Atos are basically going to be losing the contract, as you know. You're aware of that next year. they're going to lose the contract. But what few people know is that a company called Maximus is going to be taking over. They're a notorious American corporation who are basically they're basically robber barons. That's what they are. They've been fined for fraud, $30 million to the American government for basically defrauding Medicaid. They've basically been involved in discrimination against women. They've also been involved in essentially in other frauds as well across different states of the United States. So the Tory government decide they are the suitable replacement for Atos to come in and do the work capability assessment to further impoverish the poor, the sick, the dying and the disabled. And they're going to come in, and, as John McCardle from Black Triangle said the other day, it's from the frying pan into the fire, and that's what it represents. So this Maximus will be taking over next year, and while Atos were getting £100 million for what they were doing, this corporation are going to get £500 million for what they're doing from the taxpayer, from you and me and every other British taxpayer, and that's what's going to happen. Further on from that, that's on the employment support allowance. Further on from that, we also have a Scottish company, a company called Salus, S-A-L-U-S. Now they're in the public sector, believe it or not. They're part of NHS Lanarkshire, and they are doing all the assessments for the personal improvement payments, the PIP payments as they call them, and the personal independence payments. And essentially they're based in Argyll Street in Glasgow, subcontracted by Atos for £22 million for the whole of Scotland. And their target is to get 20% of the disabled off benefits altogether. What was the old DLA was now the personal independence payments. They're going to get 20% off, and that's a saving of £2.2 billion for the government for the whole of the United Kingdom, Saluses and all the other companies that Atos have subcontracted. Now what we have got to do is to keep the fight up and basically fight back. And what's happening in Atos and what's happening with these companies is they're going to further impoverish people and drive the disabled, the sick, the poor and the dying into the gutter of poverty. The fact of the matter is that we've already seen it. We had this situation that Mark Woods was a young man, well, relatively young in his 40s, who suffered from Asperger's syndrome, suffering from essentially autism, who Atos decided was fit to work and took his employment support allowance away. 6 months later, the police battered down his door and they found that man dead. He died of starvation, weighing 5 stone 6 pounds. What a way to live in the 4th most unequal society in the world, and one of the most wealthy, but it's the 4th most unequal society in the world is Britain today. We also had Eleanor Tatton, who was highlighted in the Daily Record, who was a woman who had a brain tumour, cancer of the brain, and who was deemed fit to work. Fit to work. And she died 5 weeks later after she was passed by Atos as fit to work. We had Joseph Carson from Drumchapel, 23 years of age, who had a serious heart condition 2 years ago, came out of the Atos session and dropped dead 2 streets on from Cadogan Street. That was one of the reasons why we started doing the direct actions against Atos and for doing the picket outside Atos at the end of every month. And there's one on the last Friday of this month, and we'd urge you to come along. It's at 12:30 in Cadogan Street, and I would urge you to come along at 12:30 on that day to show your solidarity and your fraternity with the people who suffer, the sick, the disabled and the dying, and the poor. Moving on from there, our children are living in our society today. We've got 239,000 children living in poverty in Scotland today. Now, the 8 leading charities, hardly revolutionary groups, the Child Poverty Action Group, the Poverty Alliance, etc., stated that we're in a crisis, an absolute crisis of poverty. It's a catastrophe waiting to happen because another 100,000 children are going to be driven into poverty by the year 2020 under the Union and under the politics of austerity. And the politics of austerity are going to get worse. We're now seeing that people's benefits are going to be frozen and cut in real terms over the next number of years. Now, who has signed up for that? The fact of the matter is the Tories are the ones that are causing it. But all the political parties at Westminster have signed up for it. The Liberal Democrats and the Labour Party, the Red Tories, as I would call them and Theresa rightly calls them. They have caused this because Miliband and Ed Balls said to the City of London earlier this year that they would implement the Tory spending cuts over the next 2 years. £25 billion worth of cuts, and that's what they would implement. So all the Westminster parties are going to do this. So it doesn't matter next year if you vote Labour, Tory or Liberal Democrat. If you vote these unionist parties, you're going to end up with absolute poverty and an absolute decline of this country becoming a more unequal society. Now, the fact of the matter is that the Labour Party, through Joanne Lamont, has been demanding from Nicola Sturgeon that they abandon the idea of a referendum for the next generation. Well, I'm afraid the poor, the sick, the disabled and the dying can't wait another 10 years or 20 years for a referendum. They can't wait that long. The fact of the matter is all the major political parties south of the border in London are supporting the big banks, the corporate companies and the rich individuals, to the extent that all the FTSE 100 companies are sitting on a cash surplus of £53.3 billion. £53.3 billion, and they're going to do absolutely nothing with it. They're just sitting in this pile of cash, and the only thing they're doing is paying out bonuses for themselves and for the top executives, and that's what they're doing. An absolute moral disgrace, but it's completely impracticable because Britain's about to face another major economic crisis. We're about to enter another recession because Osborne and lots of others have been warning about it. The fact of the matter is that's what's going to happen. And what we are saying very, very clearly, what is the way ahead? How can we turn things around? Well, I think this gentleman, Darren, hit it on the head. What we need is a massive redistribution of income and wealth, a radical change. That's what we need. And we need it through independence in Scotland. And how are we going to achieve it? Well, 80,000 members are now in the SNP. The Scottish Socialist Party have got 2,500 new members, and the Green Party have tripled their membership. So all the parties that support Yes have a massive membership. But this is the warning I've got for the politicians. The people are on the move, and they're going faster than the politicians are prepared to go. And what we're saying very, very clearly here tonight is we want to get through to 2016, and with the majority of votes cast and with the majority of MSPs in the Scottish Parliament in 2016, we should unilaterally declare independence for Scotland. And that's what we should do in 2016, in 2 years' time, because we cannot afford to wait. Because we've been lied to, we have been manipulated. We can't await another referendum for a year's campaign for the elite of this country in London to tell their lies and frighten people. You don't realise the lies that were told, the rigging of the votes that went on. And yes, they were rigged. There was vote rigging that went on. And I'll tell you the lies and the deceit that went on. The workers out at Hewlett-Packard, these are workers that work out in Bishopton. They were told verbally that if they voted yes, they were going to close the plant down after 3 weeks after the referendum. That's what the workers at Hewlett-Packard were told in Bishopton. We were told, where we worked, that prices would go up. Other companies did the same. They frightened the workers, threatened them, and that's what they did. They threatened them and said they would lose their jobs. On the shipyards, BAE threatened workers saying that the shipyards would close if there was a yes vote. This went on all over Scotland. The elderly were told, you'll lose your pension will be taken away from you, when it was all lies. Lie after lie after lie. And that's the terrible thing. You may turn around and say, where Darren was concerned, said that we've got to work with the people that voted no. Yes, for those that we have to work with in the working class. But don't believe one thing. We are a divided country because the vote was on social class lines. The working class voted yes, and the upper middle classes, the middle classes voted no. That's the way it happened, and that's what we have. We have a socially divided society. And the fact of the matter is, we're going to be a socially divided society until we get independence. Because the working class got registered to vote and they're not prepared to wait any longer. He said revolution. Yes, there'll be revolution. Because the revolution will come in 2016 when we get our independence through the mandate, which was the policy of the Scottish National Party for 50 years. And that is the facts of the situation. For 50 years, that was it. And we can achieve it in 2016. And believe it, you, me, the people in the yes camp are not going to stand still. And the bridgehead to independence was built with the referendum. We have got a bridgehead of 1.6 million people ready to go again and who are not prepared to wait for things to happen and are prepared to get involved now. Make no mistake, the meeting tonight is a starting point. And from this point onwards, we're going to go forwards. Now, one thing I want to make clear, I was not pleased at all with the meetings and the rallies that were held in George Square over the last number of weeks, because it was decided 2 weeks ago by Mr. Sheridan that he would choose his speakers. And people at Darren were kept off the platform. I was kept off the platform. And other people wouldn't go near it because of the controversy regarding the money situation. And then on Saturday, the STUC and the Poverty Alliance held a rally in George Square, and again Darren and myself were denied a place on the platform. That is not people power. That is groups trying to control the 1.6 million people, and that must not be allowed to happen. People should be allowed to speak if they wish to speak from a platform. It's got to be a people's platform. Like tonight, people should be allowed to speak up here at the top table or from where they sit. And everybody should have that chance to speak. Because this is a people's movement. This is a social movement. This is what the 1.6 million people are. They're not there to be controlled by politicians. Politicians are the servants of the people. That's what they are. They're there to serve. And the people decide what happens. And that's what has to happen. And the other thing I would say is that a gentleman who is here tonight very bravely went on YouTube to say that he picked up 155 votes, 156 votes that were yes votes, and he picked them up from Duke Street. Now, I can tell you here tonight that I got one of those votes, and I was told, leave it alone, don't go near it. It's a bunch of nutcases. It's not genuine. Well, believe you me, I did not take that seriously, because I felt in my guts that something was wrong. Not to the extent that the vote was rigged, to the extent that the vote that would have changed the vote. However, 156 votes lying in the street, that was all yes votes in Duke Street, has to be investigated. So I took that vote and I handed it over to a newspaper that was against independence, because I thought, well, if they can look at it and say that it's genuine or not genuine, we can respect that they're not biased for independence. So the bottom line was, I took it to the Daily Record and handed it over to the Daily Record. Now the Daily Record reporter took it to an expert off the record, and the expert has said that he believes the vote is genuine. The vote that I handed over is genuine. So that would mean that the other 155 votes are genuine as well. Which begs to say, why were 156 votes lying in a bag in the middle of Duke Street after the referendum? And these were people who had voted. These votes were meant to be incinerated once it was over. We also have the controversy whereby the votes, when we voted, there was no actual barcode on the back of the votes. I didn't look, because I wasn't thinking about it at the time when I voted. I was too busy wanting to make sure I voted yes. But 400 people have come forward and given testimony and handed it over to Naomi Wolf, the American campaigner who came over from America, on the barcodes. Now, at the beginning, I was a bit sceptical about the whole thing. However, I met a man a couple of weeks ago who was a polling officer for 20 years in Moray, up north, and he turned around and says he examined the back of his vote before he voted, and there was no barcode on the back of his vote. Now, that's a man who should know what he's talking about. There is something smelling here. There is something wrong. There is something wrong in the state of the United Kingdom today. There has to be an independent investigation of the voting and what went on. And especially Ruth Davidson. Ruth Davidson was on a national television programme, and she turned around and said, just after the referendum was over, we believe we've got a good result before the votes were decided, because the No campaign looked at the postal votes and counted them, which is against the law. So she should not be a witness. She should be getting prosecuted for what she did and for what the No campaigners did. But will Police Scotland do anything about it? I very much doubt it, because the gentleman who had the 155 votes sent it to Police Scotland, and they denied they ever got those votes. They are lying. They are lying. They got the votes. They were sent in good faith, and they got them. Well, the one vote that we did retain has been told that it is a definite, genuine vote. So I would expect the Daily Record to go in now and do an article on this and call for an investigation of what actually went on during the polling that took place. 100,000 people signed a petition believing that the vote was rigged. Are we saying that those 100,000 people are wrong? Are the politicians who turn around and says, oh no, it wasn't rigging, it never took place? Well, I'm sorry, but I think there has to be an investigation that has to take place, and the ones that counted the tallies on the postal votes should be prosecuted, because it carries a year in jail and a £5,000 fine, and they have to be prosecuted. But my main message to you guys tonight is to go out there and tell your families and tell your neighbours that there's a campaign to be won. We've got a nation to claim back in 2016, a nation that will be independent, a nation that will redistribute income and wealth, a nation that will give a decent income to our poor, or disabled, or sick, and are dying, and give a living wage to the people who work for a living 40 hours a week so they don't have to struggle month to month, and we will eliminate food banks forever. Yeah!
Well,
Can I
we
say
have
for the record when he's talking
What about the one where-
oh, it's
can I-
not me, because I've got a shower in a week for the cabin.
I'm just going to open up to the floor for you to talk to.
See the box that they open up and they pour it out and they were all scattered about. There was one box that was televised live when they opened it up, they were all wrapped up and tied
Yeah,
up.
I know.
Folded.
Everybody knows that it does smell like it was corrupt and it was fixed and all the rest of it. But we are where we are, and there's nothing we can do about that. Even we can hold 10, we can waste more time spending, going back, trying to reassess what should have been, that could have been, that wasn't. But there's no point. What we have to do is move forward. Stop looking back. We can't change the past. We can't change what they've done. We can't change what they do.
How can we not change the past? What are you saying here?
Sean, we can't change what they've done. We can change things, but we can't change what they've done, because even if you had another vote today, it still wouldn't be the same vote as you had on that day. You can have another vote, you can have 10 votes,
Right,
but you
what
still...
I'm saying to you is this, right? They broke Purda law. Right? They
Yeah,
Purda
charge
law-
them. I understand that.
Right, they broke Purda law, right, which means you're not allowed to interfere with the referendum campaign within 20 or 30 days for the vote. And they done that because they produced the vow, which broke Purda law, which wasn't investigated. There was 156 votes found in Duke Street, obviously, that wasn't investigated. There was these, like the guy says, they emptied the box and they were all sitting there.
And we've seen the piles on the
pile-
table, but they're all yes
Yeah,
votes
yes
that were in the
vote
no
and a no
pile.
pile.
We've
There
seen
was-
the boys signing them, Sean, we know about the
we seen the
time.
boys signing. We seen there was also somebody that gave a statement to say there was a ballot box taken out a van and another one put in a van, and he took the registration number on it. So all these things, equate to fraud. And if the fact of the matter is, if it was one complaint, if it was only one thing, then fair enough, that can get swept under the carpet. But for all these irregularities to happen, there's got to be an investigation, and Police Scotland have got to investigate every single one of these.
But you and I know
Plus
Police
the
Scotland
things
won't
that-
do it, because
But
Police
why?
Scotland Police Scotland
Why
won't
is
do
there
it
not
because,
an independent vote?
because they're not
going to take
independent, they're a
place again?
private company. They're a private for-profit organisation. For anybody in here who thinks that Police Scotland is for justice, you're on a cuckoo plane, because Police Scotland is a private company for profit. They're no longer paid out your council tax the way they used to be. We all know that, Sean. We know the police, the corruption within the police force is disgusting. Kenny McCaskill should hold his head in shame. It should be sacked. We need to rid ourselves of all the politicians, because anybody who's a politician today is no worth salt. Because they've not did nothing. They've not protected any people. They've not protected our kids. They've not protected the disabled. They've not protected anybody. And now it's saying we're going to have 600,000 more UK children. Adults can choose what to do for themselves. They can choose to go to the pub. They can choose to go and buy drugs. They can choose to smoke fags if they like. Children don't have a choice. Children have got to do what we tell them to do, and they're subjected to the pressure on the kid, of the parents, onto the kids. We need to change it for the children. That's what we need to do. I understand.
The European Union, so why are we not taking it higher?
Because the problem is, Sean and I have been in the court process, right? And it's no easy to go through the courts, because the problem you've got is the courts are
human
corrupt.
rights, you've got your human
Yeah, but
rights.
see, your human rights are no worth salt in these.
There must be something though. We can't
Yeah, well,
just
that's
all
why
say,
we're here.
oh, we need to fix it, we need to fix it, and then
Yeah,
just
but
leave it.
we the people need to fix it, because the court, you can't depend on the government to fix it, because they won't.
We're up against organised crime with these people, of course.
That's right.
Yeah, we are.
How are we as
Teresa,
people going to
can I
fight
just say
these
something
people?
very quickly? Teresa, can I say something very quickly? Can I just say that I believe, like myself, there has to be an investigation into it, and that's what we're pushing for. But Teresa's right in one respect. We've got to move forward, and that's why I say that the most important thing of all is that we all move forward together across the different communities in Glasgow and throughout Scotland, and make sure that we are aiming for to get yes parties voted in. I'm not joining the SNP. I said last week I joined the SNP, but I decided not to, because I want to be a single issue campaigner and be able to go across the political lines. However, I believe that we strategically I will vote for the SNP next year and 2016, because I believe that that's the way to getting what we need, and it's a means to an end, and that we get a socialist Scotland after that, and further down the line we get the redistribution of income and wealth, and we get rid of the monarchy and stuff like that. And that's what I do believe in, and that's what I really do believe in. That is my core thing. That I want rid of the monarchy. I want a socialist Scotland. I want a Scotland where people can have a socially just society, where people don't starve, people don't need to choose between eating and eating. And the bottom line is we need to move forward, and it is towards the referendum in 2016.
I'm reading in the paper that the Orange Order and all that, they're all going to be voting Labour, they're all getting together to say
Yeah, because who pays them, Sean? You and I know they're all in the same elite club. We're not in that elite club, but guess what? See that elite club? There's less in the elite club than there is in the people in this country. There's more people, working class or lower class that they call us. If you don't have money, you're no worth nothing. No, the ones with the money that are holding on to it, that are leaving kids to starve, they're no worth nothing. You could have that, Sean.
Scottish people go to the Edinburgh Parliament and stand there.
But I tell you what I say about that, Sean. What's to stop them doing?
Because there's 1.6
Right.
Councillors and the
Wait, I'll tell you,
MSPs
Sean.
and MPs should be pillars of the community.
They should be doing it first, but they're not doing
the
it.
councillors and MSPs
They should be,
MPs,
they're not.
it should be pillars of the community. People who know, who walk in the street, and people who know them, people who actually know who they are. They live in the schemes that they're representing. They do things for the schemes and the housing areas they represent. It shouldn't be somebody who lives on the other side of the city in a big fancy house who's got no relevance and doesn't actually know what it's like to live in an area you're brought up in. There has to be a grassroots level from the bottom up, where your councillors, your MSPs and your MPs have to be people from the areas that you know. When you go to a shop, people should know them. You should say, oh, they're the MSP Jim, and have a word on the street. It shouldn't be a place where you need to wait till he's surgery on the Monday, because he actually doesn't even live in your housing scheme and nobody even knows him. It should be somebody who've actually got his mobile number and you say, Jim, how you doing? I've got a problem here. It should be somebody who people know. That's how we make radical change. We're no career politicians. It's people who actually care about their communities, about their areas, getting voted into power to make a change for their friends. Not about you as a person getting up this gravy trying to get to the tap. I want to get to the tap. It's what the great John McClane says, rise with your class, not out of it.
I mean, see the way we are now. Alistair Watson is the one that's supposed to look after this area for Labour, right? Now, they were giving money to the people who bought the big fancy houses in Penilee,
But he's
and the
just
people
another red Tory.
excuse me, I know he's a red Tory, but the people in Penilee are saying it was as if they brought, like, Paint Place or something, was it, no, one of the soaps, and dumped it in the middle of Penilee, and all the money gets spent on that, and they're not getting, so they're not feeling that they're getting treated fairly in their own area, that they've lived here for 50 years, and Alistair Watson didn't give a toss, he didn't care. Alistair Watson, Darren Caregie came here in December to a meeting that we held in this room, and Darren Caregie, there was loads of people here, the place was mobbed, and Alistair Watson says, don't worry, there's no money for the local area. Right. Well, they two walked away and didn't give two hoots because there wasn't money for the local area, albeit the place was mobbed, you know, but they thought we would go away because there wasn't money, but there is loads of people, every day I'm out there, people are talking to me, but they're scared to come inside. I've spoken to people that are scared to say or do anything in case they stop their benefits. I can't get involved because I'm on benefits.
I think we have to do what Sean says and let the people have a voice.
So
people have to be allowed to talk because this is not about, it's about everybody. Grassroots movement.
You and then that chap behind you there.
Can I just say that I agree with Sean at the back here, and I agree with Teresa, and Sean, and you, Darren, because it's a false dichotomy between Teresa and Sean here. There's no real division there. I think these things need to be exposed. Obviously you can't depend on the powers that be because they're crooked. Right, that doesn't mean to say we don't expose it. The more people that talk about this on social media, on their wee newsletters out and shove them through people's doors, the better. That's what needs to happen, more and more and more of it. And that's why I say that if you're talking about what to do next, more and more people need to be politically educated. And we do that by educating ourselves, by investigating the things that we hear rumours about. Rumours are only about creating more fear and more hatred of one person against another. Oh, it's the Roma. Oh, it's East Europeans. Oh, no, it's the Africans. No, it's not. It's these buggers up there. Right? And it is providing road stuff. But what is a problem is when you hear about over the East End, when they shut down a place for disabled people and build a bus park, or when you hear that some pal of the Labour Party buys a piece of land for £1 or £100, and then it ends up it's worth millions within 2 or 3 years. That's the kind of stuff that people should be investigating and finding out the truth behind it. We know in our bones it's true, but you've got to prove these things. It's like saying you know somebody did something. You can't put them in the dock, it wouldn't be just. So just by the same token, these things need to be teased out and get the real evidence and put it in newsletters, put it on social media, get it out there. That is part of our education and everybody else's education. It's great to have a fantastic speech from Darren or Sean or somebody else that can do it. And we need all that. But we also need to develop ourselves as political beings. That's part of our humanity. If we don't do that, then we're just going to be fodder for the next people that come along, for the red Tories with their great rhetoric when they decide to go back to basics and pretend that they're the old Labour Party when they're not. They're just doing it to get your votes back again. As soon as you do that, they'll just be saying, all right, another 7 years and I'll have my seat in the House of Lords, £300 a day. Lovely. That's all they're after. We know about the blue Tories. That's what the red Tories are like. Watch out for the yellow Tories or gold Tories or whatever the SNP or the Liberal Democrats want to call themselves. Because they're just the same. But I do agree with Sean that, yes, instead of us being used as cannon fodder by one of these groups, we want to use them so that we can use it as a stepping stone. Therefore, I do agree with Sean on that, on 2015 and possibly 2016. But I don't know when the time 2016 comes, there might be a People's Party, Scottish Socialist Party, Scottish Green Party, and people will be voting for a number of parties that are all independence parties and can all agree on one thing, even if they've got ideological differences. They can all say, we are now an independent country, because they're all there, they're all in that Scottish Parliament and I can then move forward. So, because what we need to do is turn the pyramid upside down. The pyramid that is society, it needs to be the other way around. And on the fraud, another wee bit about the fraud and the referendum. The government was busy paying the No campaign out of the taxpayers' pockets money for advertising on social media, right up to the very end. And that was totally against the law. Well, the government going to put themselves in the dock. I somehow doubt it.
No, the people need
But
to do that,
the thing is, all this stuff about saying, no, don't waste your time in that, go focus on the main thing. All of this is the main thing. All of it. And I would say, on the question of, we should go forward on the living wage, we should be talking about health care and social care and seeing that it is public sector funded and it has a public sector ethos about it. Not something about some big bureaucratic monolith. No, the public sector ethos that everybody thought was wonderful after the Second World War and continued to think that until Thatcher came along a whole 30, can you believe it, 30 bloody years ago that she came along, and so we've had that eroded and eroded ever since. So we need that. We don't want computers to calculate people's debt. We want computers to think of new, exciting things going forward within a social justice society, obviously. And as far as social housing, I don't care if you call it housing, council housing, social housing, call it what you like, but one democratically accountable housing that is decent and up to a good standard. And that actually is one of the ways to put right your economy. They say there's no faith in the economy, can't get credit and all this sort of thing. Well, the government can intervene and do something about it. There used to be a thing called the Public Works Loans Board, which guarantees that the interest rates for these purposes will not be above a certain level. And that can easily be reconstituted, reinstituted, put into practice again. So we definitely, as far as the 45 is concerned, it's not 1745, it's not 45%, 45% plus, and it's yes all the way. Thank you.
It's just, on my phone I've got a phone recording to May or April this year, and it was dealing with the Department of Works Pensions, who phoned me up to tell me that I was now getting put off, and they weren't entertaining my claim. They weren't entertaining my claim, and this was before I'd made the fucking claim. She's saying, I've got the documentation here in front of me, dated the 10th of April. I said, well, I've just put the documentation into the office that I deal with this morning. And I've got it all here on the hangy, and she said, no, I've got it here in front of me. I said, I just put it in this morning. I said, so they said you were going to email you and what have you. So I've got it out now lying, but she wouldn't let me speak, right? And what she kept saying was what happened on Saturday, because I had to go to Atos. Now my condition is, I've got COPD, right? My lungs, it's not going to get any better. It's a deteriorating illness, it'll probably kill me. And I've got hardening of the arteries. Now, the surgeon won't operate because I can't stop smoking, which the government readily advertises as being a good thing when I was a wee boy. So, I've got the ability to take illnesses that aren't going to get any better. So I went to Atos and I asked her why I was here. Why am I here when I've got these illnesses? She told me to shut up or she would end the interview. Which put me into a state, which put me into a state of fear and alarm and intimidation.
Absolutely.
So, I'm a wee guy for schemes of Glasgow. I don't take too kindly to that. What happens now is I get fucking angry. So I showed her my anger. Now, she's there supposed to be a nurse. Right? Something that I have is there's no blood or oxygen gets to my legs and I get pain in my legs through this hardening arteries. And I have this thing called claudication, and she questioned me about that and how do you get claudication and what causes it. And my reply to that was, no, I'm fucking angry now. But you're telling me you're a fucking nurse and you're hanging that. And you're asking that stupid fucking question. And all she did was ask me stupid fucking questions. How do you manage your pain? I told her I take pills and I fucking get comatose for a half an hour, right? And I fucking Scooby-Doo fucking land. And I've told her that to start with. Then she asked me 3 questions down the line. I says, you've already asked me that question, what the fuck are you asking me again for? Because I am really fucking angry now. And I want to grab her by the fucking hair and say,
I know. Frustration.
right? Because I'm getting angrier and angrier as the thing, well, I'll stop this meeting. Fear and intimidation. And I'm saying to her, I'm not going to take that shooting you. No, to try and bring her down, because I'm shit scared that she ends it. The meeting, the assessment, whatever the fuck you call it. Excuse me for swearing, because I swear I'm angry. Right? I'm just reliving this, and what I'm doing is I'm releasing this anger in here. Because if I take that home with me, I'll have a sore head and no sleeping in. So, because this is what I suffer from, anger. And I'm telling her this and what have you, and all she's doing is putting me into a state of fear, alarm, intimidation, that she's going to end this interview, and if she ends this interview now, I can't afford not to get the reasonable pittance they give me. I've worked all my life to this sort of happen to me. I'm a giant trader, my own business, and what have you, and I had to give up my own business because of this, because I can't cope with it. And this is what's happened. And now I'm up there with some in myself that's pretending to be a nurse that doesn't know what qualification is.
She's obviously not a nurse.
No, she claimed to be a nurse. Now, I don't know, I really don't know how many appeals that I've got in. And every one is overlapping the other. Because I had a letter from my doctor at an appeal. Because I can't read and write properly, right? But I don't put that down as an illness. I can't read. I can't explain myself properly.
You're doing very well.
Because I'm angry.
John, you're doing very well.
Because I'm angry.
No, but it means to them, I know, when they're asking questions.
Let me finish. Try not to interrupt me, because as soon as you do that, I'll forget what I'm talking about and the fucking boys out the window. Right? So what's happened is, this is all illnesses that I've got, right? And this is all broken. I forget quite a lot through stress. I had the doctor out to examine me in the house. I've got one coming again on Thursday. And I had the doctor out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to video it. I'm not telling him I'm videoing it, because the last one fucking I spoke to and what have you, and I spoke to him about this forgetfulness, and I spoke to him for fucking ages about it, never put it down. And the reason that the tribunal asked him to come to visit me for the first place is because I kept forgetting at the tribunal. Because I'm under a state of alarm, I'm under a state of stress, and this is what happens. Because with these people, this is how I get, and not just with him, but with any sort of people. No, I could talk to Dan or thing and I forget what I'm talking about. But this is the sort of state that I'm in, and I'm trying to articulate to her, this is how I get, because this is the way I go. And I've got all these appeals, one after the other, lining up. No, this one's, and I don't know where I'm working now at all. My doctor gave me this letter because I didn't put this stuff in a forum in November that I had all this stuff. Now, I don't know what I've got. I just know I've got pain. And that's what I put down, back pain, leg pain, and what have you. And because I didn't put in what was on this letter, they dismissed the appeal. Right? And they didn't do that because I dismissed the appeal. They done that because I went into their office, I went in with a book that I got off a friend about the Department of Work's pension, with everything underlined about my condition. And I put the two of them in the spot. I said, now what is your qualifications to deal with my back pain and my claudication and my this and that? And he says, I'm the chief medical practitioner on this case, right? So, now I've got a letter from my doctor with all my ailments on it and tell them how I'm really up and what have you. This is a fucking letter that you could have died for, no. But what was on it was the facts, it was the truth. And they dismissed the appeal. For the simple reason, I quoted for the book what the law was. And there's her words, I've got her on a tape recording that I requested, was, well, we know the law. And I I'm the chief medical practitioner, and by fuck they didn't carry out the law, because they struck me off, right? Now 2 days later, I got a phone call from this woman saying, right, that's you off. I says, fine, I'll be in the sick line. So I went to see my doctor says, John, you need to go and get a lawyer. She says, you're not fit to work. Right? I'm shaking now because I'm in a bit of pain, right? I'm on pain, I'm in constant pain. Right? And he put me off, right? I went to see my doctor. The doctor says, no, John, you need to go and get a lawyer. So I went and I got a lawyer. And what have you, and I got him right in my corner. And I don't like bothering them. Do you know that? I don't like phoning them up and saying to them, listen, I'm going to Atos on Saturday at 9 o'clock. Do you think you could come with me? But what I did find out was I could get a recording. So see, when I went into her office, now, I struggled to walk into her office, right, which they've conveniently measured as 50 yards, because one of the last ones said he was seen to walk 50 yards without any assistance. Now, I walked and I had to lean against the wall and my boy was supporting me. And she lied, she says, this leg here, it's, what a pain in it, is the muscle just above my knee. It's deteriorated, it's 30 mil, an inch and a quarter different for this leg, which their doctor measured and says, oh no, you're inch, no, there's thing. But she lied and says she examined it, and what have you. And this is what I'm up against. All these people's lies. And I put this one, I says, I hope you're not going to fucking lie, because she wouldn't go and get me recording. And you're not going to lie about this. I says, because I fucking hang me, I'm sick to the teeth of people lying. And how they lie is they admit it.
John, I'll come and look at the recordings and I'll come with you.
No. I need somebody to fight the corner.
Listen, you don't need to trust lawyers and people. I'm sure Sean would help you as well.
Well, can I just say the lawyer he's got is a good lawyer.
Very good lawyer.
Yeah, he's a personal friend of mine. And it's good. It's John Flanagan. John's representing you, but just you make sure that John does represent you and does what he is required to do. Okay?
Can I say it was me that actually gave John the book and told him what, highlighted the bits, and in the book it clearly states that he should never have been signed off the sick. And I went through the book, I went through the legislation, and DWP aren't following the legislation from the benefit handbook. The benefit handbook clearly states if you're in pain, and you're in pain some days and no others, you can't be deemed to be fit for work. I've got arthritis in my knees, sometimes I can walk, sometimes I can't. Do you know what I mean? Same as John, but I went through his and I said to him, this is the bit of the legislation that they're supposed to follow, and they're not following it. Unfortunately, it's not just for you, it's for the majority of people that get up to Atos, because they're getting paid every time they sign somebody off.
I've seen this day in,
day out. It's disgusting.
People where it's getting sucked off of Atos, sanctionings. People who are working, I'm seeing day in, day out, people coming
it's going to get worse.
People coming to me, feeling ashamed, feeling embarrassed, can't look at me in the eye. Families, for instance, I told you about there's so many different families that I've seen recently that there's too many to tell. Guys who have got 5 young kids and he loses his wife to an illness. The guy gets depression, he's got 5 young wins, and the government says he's in fault because they get depression, can't go to work, they have 5 young wins and don't want to help him. I'm seeing this constant on a day-to-day basis. And I can't deal with it. I'm going to my bed at night feeling hot, can't sleep because I'm seeing the way people are. And the worst of it is, we turn it onto them and make them feel ashamed of it. Make them feel ashamed of their poverty. Don't be it. Poverty is not a shameful thing. It's a sad reality of the times we live in, created by these people at the top. It has to change. Sorry on you go, Carl.
If we can let this lady speak then. Jim's put his hand up, so Jim Thompson is the councillor for this local area, so he's going to speak as well. So if we let this lady speak, on you go, sorry.
I was just really wanting to say that I know statistically, the middle classes maybe, voted no predominantly, but they're not the enemy.
No, I know that.
And we need to actually, communicate to people in the middle classes and better off people, that if your mobility is affected, your health's affected, your job's affected, you're going to be at the mercy of the state.
Correct.
So, if you want to live in a better country, to be better off, to me, that is knowing that there is a safety net. If you find yourself, in a vulnerable circumstance. The other point I was wanting to make is that I know you don't like Tommy Sheridan because I saw the video you put up, but I personally think like somebody, I don't like somebody.
I've not mentioned Tony Sheridan, I've not mentioned him.
Well,
It was
the
me,
mixing
it
it,
was
right,
me, I've not
okay.
mentioned him.
I don't think it matters, you know, but we've all got a common goal, you know, and we all want to reach that common goal, and that's all I'm interested in. I'm not interested in personalities, whether I like somebody, whether I don't like somebody. I want my country to be independent. I've always wanted my country to be independent. I've been at school in primary, you know, and I think that the best way to get there is just be all joining together and none of this, you know, bickering amongst each other. I know that there's people that aren't perfect, you know, and there's jiggery pokery that goes on. We all know that. But, you know, just if we can all work together and put our kind of like differences, you know, aside. You know, and once we get where we're going, that's when we can decide, you know, like whose camp that we're going to be in. That's what I'm... Oh, and another thing... See with regard to the vote rigging, I don't doubt there is some sort of vote rigging, I don't, but I think the more we go on and on and on about it, the more we get across like cranks, unfortunately. You know, and I think we do need to put that one to bed and just move forward. General election next May, then 2016, get, you know, like...
Well, see, we can put it to bed, but no, really put it to bed. We can put it whereby the politicians who are in power are doing investigations while we're doing our own stuff at the other side. It's not for us to investigate because they won't let us investigate it. They need to do it. So you can put the stuff out there to make them do their job. None of them are doing their job. That's the problem we've got. I voted SNP all my life as well. When I was 18, I had to go to vote. My dad said, "You vote Labour," and I said, "Why?" "That's what you vote, Labour." "Why?" "Because we always vote Labour. Your granda voted Labour, we vote Labour because we're a Labour party." I said, "But why? They're rubbish." And he said, "No," and I said, "Well, I'm not voting Labour. I can't vote them." And he says, "Well, who are you going to vote?" I said, "Well, I'll vote SNP. You can't vote them." I said, "Well, I'll vote the Tories then, but ain't no way I'm going to vote Labour." So I voted SNP all my life. Unfortunately, I don't feel that Alex Salmon did enough. And I know the majority of people who voted no were up here. But I have actually spoke to people down here who voted no, and the reason they voted no was because they were scared, the intimidation tactics on the television, and one of the girls says to me, every time I turned my telly on, all I heard was Nicola Sturgeon saying, "Problem, problem, problem." That's the only word I heard coming out of her mouth. So she was a yes vote right until the very day she voted, and she worked with somebody else who was a no vote, and the two of them switched over, because she was scared. And the other people that I spoke to that are down here that voted no, it was because I couldn't risk losing my job. I know for a fact there's a group called Working Links who assist people back to work. They were all told they were losing their jobs if they voted yes. They were all told, and so was the MOD, David Cameron. David Cameron went to the MOD down in Govan and told them as well, if you vote no, yes, your jobs are gone.
Well, I'm sorry, but I wouldn't have, like, no matter who told me to vote no, I'd still vote yes, because they don't know what I voted.
But it doesn't
They
were scared for themselves. Everybody I know who voted no voted it for selfish reasons, looking after themselves. They didn't see the bigger picture. Alex Salmon didn't do enough, he did a lot, but he didn't do enough. He didn't tell the people the things they wanted to know. Westminster was still around the country. We still had the Queen, we still had the banks telling us what we could do, when we could do it. That was no use if people wanted more. They never done it. Jim's here, he's going to talk, so he'll speak for the SNP. You want to speak last, Jim, or we'll let Anne-Marie speak then you? Because I think it was Sean.
Listen, this guy went in trying to claim maybe 50, 60, 70 pound, which is an absolute shambles of money, and he was refused that, probably wanted his housing benefit. The guy's worked all his life and he deserves something. Does anybody realise that we read in the papers that for every meeting that Gordon Brown done on the No campaign, he got 350,000 quid.
Sean, they're a disgrace to society.
£350,000 a
absolute disgrace.
And this guy, he won't be able to get £80 to feed his cell and his wife or whatever.
Do you think it's every meeting, is that no the total that he...
No,
it's every meeting he done £350,000.
£64,000 for the bedrooms in a second home that we're all paying for. You know, so it's how do you stop them? The only way to stop them is grassroots all coming together, like you say, come together. No, everybody likes each other. You just put them to the side. You know, I had a friend years ago and that's what she said. You don't need to like her and he doesn't like to like you, but you just need to work together and be civil if you want to be in my company. That's the way it's got to be. You know what I mean? Put your differences, leave them outside the door, don't bring them in with
The
you.
problem we're having at the moment is the fact that exactly the same as what's happening in Westminster. Somebody wants credit for everything that's going on. You've got all these different groups and they're not interested in each other's group. There's too many groups.
We're for three different groups.
It's becoming a personality. That's what it is.
We're four different groups.
So the personality, for a lot of people, let's face the facts, a lot of people are involved in things with personality for self-gain. As soon as that happens, it creates division. It breaks up. This system gets the people for the ground up, the grassroots level, isn't it, people? As soon as it becomes about personalities, it becomes about self-opportunists, that's when things go ski with. That's a fact.
I'm not talking about
I know,
I'm talking about the groups that are all fighting
I know what you're saying.
themselves, and it's terrible.
I don't get involved in it. I don't get involved in it. Unless somebody does something to me personally, then even then, you just need to leave it at the door.
That's enough to put somebody
Can
out
I,
voting,
can I
yes.
just say something? Can just
Yeah,
say
I
something?
can will it.
Well,
Jim,
Jim,
we've only
Jim,
got like
let
20
Jim-
minutes
let
because I
Jim-
would like Jim to speak to the people.
Let's-
You want to say
let's-
something,
let's-
Anne-Marie?
Please, if that's all right. You know, sorry. No, I was just going to say, I noticed when the campaign and that, and I was watching it, I couldn't believe it when I realised religion, football, and do you know, I was shocked because see before it, I couldn't believe it. I didn't know what that was, and then next minute you've seen all this stuff, and then it became, I mean, a lot of my friends are from different sides, and it was all arguments, and I'm like, oh my God, but people actually voted because of Protestant or because of Catholic.
That's Westminster politics.
It's called divide and conquer. Divide the vote, isn't the voting?
But
You're squabbling.
these people, see what they were doing, I felt like going, you stupid idiots. Whatever you voted, see at the end of the day, you're not caring about that. You're caring about football and religion. What about your kids? What about the kids? What about the next generation? And do you know, I was that angry. I felt like going, well, do you know something? I can't wait. If all turns around and comes back and bites, she's on the arse because she's not got a fucking clue. If that's the state that you're going to do something through religion, disgusting. And I went, I just do not want any part of that. And that's the way it became. That's the way it became. And it was horrible. See Facebook, it was horrible. And then the things you've seen in the tune and everything. People getting attacked and turning on one another and flat. I mean, there was a wee lass that fell, she had the Scottish salt tie, right? She was just a wee bit drunk, and this guy came up and he was right out her horn, and I went, you bastard, do you know what I mean? Really vicious, you know, and it became really, really bad. And I thought, that makes me sick.
Listen, that was sick what happened on that night. Now let's remember what happened the next night. What happened with the special, all the food drives and all that. Let's remember when the people came and spoke with peace. And the huge food drives, and people came with food for Glasgow to do food bank, and it showed the real signs of Glasgow. Glasgow's all about. Let's have faith in people. People are good. This is tactics that you use, divide and conquer, looking for us to squabble amongst ourselves, blame each other instead of blaming them at the tap. So let's not focus on the bad portrait that happened that night, that nonsense. Let's focus on the good people and the good of Glasgow. Let's focus on getting the good people moving and constantly getting involved in social issues. Let's get Joe Bloggs in the street. Want to question his council, his MSP, his MP, and remind him that you work for me. I employ you. Let's get them involved.
The votes and that, no, they are not going to change their mind. I mean, I cannot see them changing their mind. They've got one thing in mind, and it's religion. I'm sorry, I just...
Yeah, well, we just have to hope that we can do that. We can change them for some people will.
It's a shame.
Some people will when it comes to their door, and that's when most people changes, you know.
Exactly.
It comes and taps their own door, or somebody affects their mother or their granny or something like that. I'm going to let Jim, because we've got to come out of here for 8:30, so if we can... Excuse me, John, can we let Jim speak? He's a councillor from this local area.
I didn't come here to speak,
All
I
right,
just came
okay.
to observe, but I think you moved me to speak actually because what I was hearing from you was what I'm getting is cases all the time. Very quick example, a man who had been involved in an explosion and had severe nervous problems was told at one of these hearings that if he would appeal, he would have another look at his wife's DLA. And his wife's got terminal illness. We're getting this kind of thing all the time. I see it. In fact, I'm 57. I didn't want to be a councillor, although I've been a Scottish National Party member since I was 16. And I was persuaded with family to stand eventually. And yeah, I do stay in Penilee in a GAT house.
I didn't know your name was Jim, I just used that incidentally.
No, but but I just thought it'd be extraordinary if I sat here listening to those who never said anything. But just to back up what you're saying, it was always SNP policy, since I was 16, that if the SNP get a majority of seats in Westminster from Scotland, so 32 seats, that would be a mandate for independence. Scottish Parliament changed that slightly, and it was always the case that they designed the Scottish Parliament so that no single party could get a majority. This was an extraordinary business, the SNP getting a majority. And you might wonder, it took us so long to get a referendum, because every time the SNP tried for it, the Liberal and Tories ganged up and used it. But I don't think you actually realise what an extraordinary event getting a majority was. I actually wonder if we'll be able to achieve that again. And let me tell you this, if there's a majority of SNP or SNP plus Greens or whoever, independence parties in Holyrood, we won't have another referendum.
We're not going to get freedom in our referendum anyway.
Well,
we're not going to get it through another referendum.
I'm just saying, the Unionists will be saying very firmly at the next election that if you vote SNP, you're going to get another referendum. They're going to challenge the SNP. If you get elected with a majority, will you call another referendum? And the SNP say yes, then the Holyrood election will become a rerun of the referendum. Then no campaign will be saying don't vote for these guys because we vote for these guys, will be another referendum. And yes, people will be getting together and hopefully voting. But that's a bad situation right there, because that just polarises everyone again, and we might not get a majority. And if we do get a majority, then what's the right timing for a referendum? If the UK parties decide to leave the European Union, that's a constitutional crisis right there that merits another referendum. And so we've got to be in a position to be able to call the referendum. So it's a whole lot of thinking everyone's got to do. I don't know the answers. I just hope that there is no fractiousness between the yes movement, and that we move on together and actually work to achieve. And the first target is clearly a majority of yes people in Holyrood, because we could send 50 SNP MPs to Westminster, we won't be able to call it a referendum. I'm going to tell you that right now. Holyrood's the only path towards a referendum, as constitutionally speaking. So that's pretty much all about it. I just want to put those, like, as I see the route to the independence being through Holyrood, through a majority of yes-minded people, and also just to let you know that what you were saying, I'm seeing all the time. What you were saying, I've got people look fine from the outside, everyone's happy families, behind those closed doors, people getting their money and are eating cornflakes with their milk for dinner. And there's a lot of it. I was late because I was at another house visit. But, you know, all is not well.
Yes, we were up poor growing up. My mum used to make porridge, stick an ox on it and tell it was mince.
all is not well, and I just want to just ask you all just to keep the yes movement on course. We've got a Labour council who shut down care homes for the disabled and handicapped. It cost £110,000 to keep them open, but Labour had promised to have free golf for the over 65s, and that was going to cost £110,000. So in the budget, the free golf for the over 65s won out over the care homes for the handicapped. That's what we're facing. I don't mean to make a big political point, but that's one that gets me right here, because we lost one in the morning constituency here. Anyway, folks, I just wanted to sit here and not say anything as an elected official. But I can tell you this, if any of you get any problems that I can help with, am I looking for customers? Come and see me.
Can you advertise the meetings here?
I'll find that
They
out.
won't let us advertise, and they keep. I have to. Honestly, I've been doing it since last year, as you know, and they keep
Your
pulling
complaint didn't
off.
go unnoticed.
Aye.
I'm going to find
So
out.
I mean, if we could advertise this centre is well used on a daily basis, but people are just not getting to see it because they're not letting me advertise.
I have raised it with Billy McAllister, Councillor McAllister. I have raised it with Billy, and Billy was going to talk to you about it. Maybe he forgot.
No. We keep missing each other.
I'm sorry, people, but I need to throw you out now because I've got you out for 8:30. Sorry. Thanks very much, everybody, for coming. Yes, thanks very much.
Kev, could you get the tripod? I want to try and catch this guy. Tripod's there. I just want to catch this guy.
Thanks very much. So will you come back?
Hi, Jim. Just hold on, I'm going to get somebody to talk to.
So see that, just the email you said on YouTube, actually showing my partner, and he's went up and showed his pals, so they've been interested in the problem stuff and that as well.
Want to get this Independence Live. I'm just hoping to just get a wee minute. Is it John?
Johnson and David.
Johnson and David, yeah.
That's the man.
Just covering the camera here because that lady doesn't want to be on camera. This is live, by the way. Okay, I'm just covering the camera because the lady didn't want to be on camera. Hi, can you just introduce yourself to the viewers? You're on Independence Live. Okay, this is...
Hi there, I call myself John, son of David.
Hi. Now, you said that you found a bag full of votes.
Yeah, everything I wanted to say on that topic is obviously on my YouTube video. There's no really any more I can say. It was all on that video.
Okay.
Also, Sean Clerkin's confirmed that video was, you know, that everything that was done was genuine.
But you did report this matter to the police?
Absolutely.
Can I ask, how did you do it? Did you walk in and physically hand them over to a police officer?
No, what happened was I get told by certain people just to send these videos, these ballot papers to the police. So that's what I did. I sent them to the police. I posted them on the Friday night, I think it was, and the Saturday morning, Sean Clerkin, I think it was, for the Herald, phoned the police and asked them if they had received received the ballot papers, and they says they denied that they received any ballot papers. And the Monday morning, Sean Clerkin phoned up and asked if they would receive them. They said they denied receiving them. On Tuesday, he phoned the police, and police says that they couldn't confirm or deny they received them. And every day since then, they denied receiving, those ballot papers. So I don't know what happened on Tuesday. Tuesday was a different story for Saturday, for Monday, for Wednesday, and for Thursday. I sent them into the police. The police should have investigated it. Sean Clerkin's confirmed through the Electoral Commissioner and through obviously the Herald newspaper as well. He's going to be confirming that paper was genuine. And the fact that it didn't have a barcode on it as well, that's clear breach of the rules for the regulations of the referendum. So this needs to go further, along with the other facts that I mentioned earlier on in the meeting, that there was somebody with a pen up their wrist marking ballot papers. There was somebody that seen a ballot paper.
Is this the one that was on YouTube?
Absolutely.
Going the rounds
and there was a guy or lady wrote in a letter with registration plates saying that they had seen somebody take a ballot box out of a car and put one in another car.
Yeah.
You know, there's been various, and these need to all be investigated by the police. And I'm quite happy to help them with their investigations. I don't have a problem with that.
Okay. Right, thanks very much for talking to us. Okay.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay, folks. I think. Right, Jim. Thanks very much for everything. You're on Independence Live, by the way, just in case you didn't. I'm just going to wrap things up. So, do you want to say cheerio to the viewers and say thanks very much?
Well, cheerio, viewers. Wasn't intended to speak tonight, but quite a few people spoke through their heart and it moved me to make a contribution. I think we've got to keep the Yes movement alive. If we can all move on together, quell division, we can actually do this thing.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Jim. Okay. It's been a very good meeting.
Eh?
It's been a very, very good meeting.
Aye. Did that come across all right?
I came across fine. I was trying. There's something no quite right with this tablet. It's not responding. I don't actually know if it's stopped. No, it's not stopping yet. Anyway. Okay, folks. Trying to actually stop here, but.